My guests today are writer-director Franz Boom and producer Hayder Huzier, and their short film Rock, Paper, Scissors has been nominated in the British short film category for the 2025 BAFTAs. Now, writer-director Franz Boom created the documentary Christmas Wishes, showcasing homeless youth's lives, which was selected as the opening for the German Youth Film Awards. He then directed a short drama, Good Luck, which premiered at the British Independent Film Festival, and his debut feature, Dear Future Children, was distributed in over 40 countries before being released on Netflix DOS. Now, Hayder Huzier is a BAFTA-nominated producer, developing and producing a slate of short, feature, and TV projects under his production label, Who's Here Productions. His films have screened at numerous Academy Award and BAFTA qualifying festivals worldwide, and before the National Film and Television School, Hayder built his career from the ground up in film and high-end TV drama production. His credits include Blue Story, Brian and Charles, and Everybody's Talking About Jamie, and County Lines. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome writer-director Franz Boom and Hayder Huzier and their BAFTA-nominated short, Rock, Paper, Scissors, to the show. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you. Hi, welcome.
Very welcome. Well, Franz, let me start off with you because tell me, how did you come to learn of Ivan's story?
Yeah, I've met Ivan when he was doing his military training in the UK, and he was here for almost 6 months after he volunteered for the Ukrainian armed forces after everything that happened in the film. And we got to know each other. I think it's fair to say we've built a really, really nice friendship together, and quite early on spoke about everything that is obviously currently happening in Ukraine, but also everything that happened to him. And I was absolutely fascinated by his story, by his experience, which I think is quite representative for so many Ukrainians who find themselves in similar situations, but not just Ukrainians, also people in other war zones or countries that are really defined by brutal conflicts. And I thought it's a very, very relevant, timely story. And I'm glad that Ivan and I were able to develop the script together. And I'm extremely, extremely grateful for the amazing team that we had, for the amazing cast and crew that we had. All of them enabled us to make this project together.
You know, after I watched the film, and I watched this film probably 2 or 3 times, and I went back to do some extra research because I like to say, location, and then I noticed in the credits that Ivan was listed as writer. And when I saw the film, I went back and looked at the credit, and I'm like, so I find it fascinating that you were able to meet him in person, get his story into a script form, and then get this film made. What an honor to have a film come about like this. I mean, in a way, it's a great honor to remember Ivan's legacy, but it's also sad in a way.
It's very sad, but I will say that obviously authenticity was very, very, very important to us. And so we are extremely grateful that Ivan was there during the development phase. I think he deservedly got a screenwriting credit for that project because, he initiated that project together with the team. He was a key part during the development process, but then also during the production, during the post-production. We've kept him updated. We've sent him the latest rough cut versions. We had a lot of discussions about the overall design of the film. We had discussions about the locations. We've had discussions about the sound design, about the editing. So it's only fair, I believe, that he is, one of the core key filmmakers behind this project. And again, this is a film with a, let's say, limited budget, but it was important for us to go into as much detail as possible and to keep it as authentic as possible. And I think Ivan and the other amazing members of the Ukrainian community who supported this project so much were so inspiring when it came to that process. And again, as mentioned before, Hader and myself, and I think I'm speaking for our entire team, we're just grateful for the amazing support from Ivan, from the Ukrainian community in the UK, in Ukraine, obviously, and also in the rest of Europe. It was really amazing to see this very efficient teamwork come to play when it comes to this film.
I would say efficient is the perfect word for this film, because if somebody would have told me that this was low budget, I would have never believed them, because this film is one of the most cinematic, highest quality films that I've seen in the last year. And so you have an incredible team. And Hader, what intrigued you about his story to produce this incredible film?
I think when Franz had brought this story to me, and we spoke about Ivan's true experiences, it just really resonated for me because it was such a grounded a grounded story to be able to hear the quiet bravery of what it's like to be a civilian in a conflict zone, and especially about a conflict that's so current and even to this day still ongoing, after having made the film. I think it was just very inspiring that I needed to be a part of this project and to kind of give it my all. And I think that theme ran through with the rest of the team as well. I think the weight of the weight of the responsibility of this storytelling, a lot of our team, and I'd like to big shout out to our team. Uh, we were all very aligned on what it is that we were trying to achieve with telling this story. There wasn't there was a lot of just perfect collaboration with everybody. Everybody seemed to have left their egos at the door, and it really kind of came through with the process of the storytelling. So yeah, I'm really proud to be able to tell this story with Franz and to have everybody involved in this project, including Ivan.
Well, being the producer, how are you able to work with a particular budget, but bring forth a film that just screams feature all over it? I mean, like I said, the cinematic quality of this film is one of the best I've seen. And not only that, you're filming within an interior and you're also filming in an outdoor environment, something that I have not seen very much in many films in the past year.
No, well, thank you for your kind words about that. I think one of the key advantages that we had was that we had brought on our creative leads quite early on. And what that meant was is that we could collaborate quite closely to make sure that we're trying to do the best that we can within the parameters that we can. This also extended to a lot of the suppliers and a lot of the collaborators that we'd met along the way. It was a big relationship building process with a lot of these people. Um, it was whilst we were telling this story, because of the true nature of the story, quite a lot of people felt that they wanted to support the project in some capacity. So there was quite a lot of collaboration in that way that kind of really worked for us. But also, just to say, the the whole team understood what we were trying to make. So there was not really very many push and pulls with the limitations. Franz, working with Franz was incredible because, he wouldn't say to me like, "Oh, we need 30 helicopters and 1,000 military units," or, we understood that these were the parameters, but also our intention with the film wasn't to make some big Hollywood spectacle. He's not like an action hero who saves the day. The key element of the film and the storytelling is that it's a very grounded piece of storytelling. This character, you're following him as he makes these decisions to survive. So, there wasn't really much room to have crazy special effects or huge action sequences or anything like that. It was very much a contained piece of storytelling, and yeah.
That's what I like. I like that it was contained. You don't need to go overboard with special effects. You don't have to go overboard with a bunch of action scenes. This was about one young man, and the camera work on this truly focused on him. Now, friends, your film captured the essence of human resilience, courage, and sacrifice in the face of war, and you show how unfair war can be. Your depiction was spot on. So, how are you able to find the balance to encapsulate all of these themes?
I mean, again, I would say working on this film for me was all about focus and focus on the right topics. I'm very grateful for your kind words, and I think also the game rock paper scissors, I think in many way is so representative for the situation that Ivan has found himself in, because it's a sheer game of luck and chance, um, whether you're gonna make it to the next day or whether you're gonna be able to protect your loved ones or not. And what I find so sad, but also I would say so relevant about this project is that, you know, Ivan was so, in my opinion, was so brave and so innovative and so such an amazing human being, and he even almost sacrificed himself, or he sacrificed a part of himself in order um to save his loved ones. But at the end, it didn't matter. That's, I have to say it in that very hard way. It just didn't move the needle. And I think when we speak about the film and when we speak about the Ukrainian war, when we speak about Putin's war in Ukraine, it's often a bit of a numbers game, and we say, okay, 500 people have been displaced here, 100 people have been killed in this city, and this film, I think, is all about bringing back focus on the individual lived experience of so many Ukrainians on the ground. And I would say very important also that Ivan, uh, at the beginning of the story, was not a soldier. So it's not about a soldier, it's about an everyday human being, an everyday man in that case, who comes into the situation has to ask himself some really, really brutal questions where there is no easy way out of it.
Yeah, and that's the thing about this film. It it makes everybody realize how unfair war is. And Ivan showed to be a bit timid, and his father encouraged him to be more forceful, especially in trying to get a truck to them to evacuate. But it also shows, like you said, Ivan wasn't a soldier. He's a civilian. His father, a doctor, is a civilian, but they stepped forward to help those that have, been harmed by the war. But then there was the scene where Ivan is looking around at all of the people in the bunker. And it's that moment that his courage rises up. Then he seeks the injured soldier who had a rifle. And I love seeing, even in a short film, and not everybody can do this very well, but both of you did this with great brilliance in bringing in just enough character development that we see this change, that he goes from a civilian, he's a son, he's trying to please his father, help his father, but then there's that moment when that soldier rises up in him, and to me that was that moment.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, that's very, very well said. And thank you for these kind words. And I think it, I also want to say the Putin's war in Ukraine and in these different territories affects everybody. There is no, as mentioned before, there is no easy way out. You can't just sort of withdraw from that conflict without any scars, or without any damage, if you want to say it like that. And Ivan is a normal human being who was confronted with that, and was 17 years old at the time, and it's just that's the effect of this war on the ground. And again, for us as a film team and as filmmakers, it was very important to tell that one particular story. I also want to mention that the story really only takes place over one day. It only takes place over a couple of hours, and I think that's also really important. It's very, very focused, very contained, as you mentioned before.
Yes, and I noticed that when I was watching the film multiple times, and I love that because it tests the filmmaker to, because with a short film you don't have a whole lot of time, but again,
Yeah.
this film is so brilliant. And Hader, for you, how were y'all able to create the underground bunker set?
Yeah, so the it took quite a few months of scouting and searching. Our production team were so incredible in being able to look for, because there isn't really a database for these sorts of things, like it was actually, we found it just outside of London. It was a brewery that we ended up using, one of their cellars in the brewery, which our production design team managed to come in and dress it to make it look like a lived in space, a human lived in space. I think the key thing, one of the uh, important bits of research that our production designer Shivani had done, was looking at what do these spaces look like, these that creates a sense of warmth and a sense of homeliness within these confines. And I think you can see those different elements in the film, where whilst these people are kind of taking shelter from what is the outside world, the danger of death at any turn of the outside world, we really try to kind of create this sense of warmth and a sense of security even in these difficult times. And I think, with a combination of the different actors that we have in the space, the references that we had from the real Ivan, from his own experiences that we brought into that space, because this was a field hospital on the front line of war, and there's elements in the sound design from Bryony, our sound designer, who there's elements of there's women giving birth in that space. There's children playing. There's people just hanging out, just scrolling on their phone, because this is a current day situation. This isn't some World War II film. This isn't some conflict that's taking place in the past. This is happening currently, and we really worked hard as a coherent team to try and breathe that life onto the screen, so that people like you and I, who are safely distant from a front line, like a conflict front line like that, could appreciate what that might feel like and what that look like.
Yeah, definitely. Because at first, of course, when I read about the film before I watched it, I knew that it was modern day. Every detail in the bunker was absolutely done to perfection. And even down to all of the cast and the things that they were doing. Everything was so authentic and real. And of course, it added to the realism, and due to the fact that this was a film based on over a couple of hours span, the audience is literally sitting there, and they're in Ivan's shoes. They're in his mind. They're behind his eyes. They're living exactly what he is living. And even the scene when Ivan went outside with the rifle, and lead actor Alexander Rudaninsky was literally the perfect actor to play him. He showed the bravery, the fear, the courage, the ingenuity to protect himself and trying to move the soldiers away from finding the bunker. Even shooting himself in the leg was very brave to deflect the Russian soldiers again away from the bunker. Uh, Franz, how much directing did you have to give Alexander in this film?
Well, firstly, I want to say, obviously, working with Alexander and the rest of the cast was real pleasure. And I had seen Alexander in a couple of Ukrainian productions, and he was very much an actor who was sort of on my list and who I really wanted to work with at some point. And I'm so glad and grateful that we had the chance to work together on this particular project. And Alexander is a very hardworking, committed actor, and I love the whole process. And I love that Hader and the production team enabled us to have that process, because we had a lot of meetings together. We've discussed the script, we've discussed the story, the characters, the journeys of the characters. This is a film that doesn't really have a lot of dialogue, and the few bits of dialogue it has, the dialogue is not that important to the story development. So that makes the sort of emotional journeys in the existence of the characters even more central and even more important. And I'm again very glad that we had a lot of rehearsals, very focused shooting days, and we were never under any sort of enormous time pressure. So we had a very smooth um, procedure, and I love to run a very performance centered set, which basically just means that the performance of the actors is in the center, in the foreground of everything. And again, very grateful to our team that we were able to work in that way. And I mean, obviously, Alexander is already an amazing actor, but it was just a fantastic collaboration. I think we were able to work together really quite brilliantly, and I'm looking forward to welcoming him back into London during the BAFTAs. Obviously, I'm very excited to see him there. And again, he was also one of the actors, let's say, also one of the filmmakers of this project, who also, similar to Ivan, similar to Hader, similar to everybody else in the team, was very much involved in the project from the beginning until the end. And that's obviously an ideal way of working together, I would say.
You know, the camera shot, the scene in which he is using the binoculars and he sees the Russian soldiers, but then he ducks down behind the black shell, the rock there, and that camera shot, that extreme close up, where every emotion you could have imagined is colliding with him at the same time. And even for the audience is literally in his mindset. And right then and there, he is thinking, and he's trying to keep fear under control, but he's trying to think, how in the world am I going to get out of this? Because there's not two of them, there's 8 of them. But just to see him, like you said, and this is what I love about many short films where the dialogue is very minimal. I love that because I want to see the actor's performance when there's a lack of dialogue. And the dialogue in this film, I felt that it was all important because it set the stage for the audience to see what was going on. Like, we got to get that truck here so we can evacuate. And that's when Ivan went out there, and we saw the truck coming down the road. So that brings that together. But that scene before the Russian soldiers found him, that is some of the best acting I've ever seen. And I looked at it at Alexander, that was and is an Oscar level, or I should say in this case, a BAFTA level performance.
Well, I mean,
Thank
that's
you.
very
Yeah.
kind. That's very kind that you're saying that. And again, it was a fantastic collaboration with him. And what I will say about Alexander as well, is that he's a no bullshit actor, and he is in the way he works. He's inspiring the rest of the team, because he doesn't really. I hope he doesn't mind me saying it, but he doesn't really need a lot of big attention, or he's not a very fuzzy person. He loves to work and he loves to get into the zone. And it was amazing to do this together. And that's exactly the time where we were able to achieve this kind of performance that you just described. And obviously it's an absolutely amazing feeling to be there on the day when it happens and to see what we're filming, and to know, okay, this is going to make it into the final film, and this is going to be very nice material to work with.
Well, Hader,
Absolutely.
yeah, go ahead, Hader.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to just add to Franz was saying, like being there on the set was electric seeing that happen because, in my opinion, what makes for successful storytelling is giving the audience the opportunity to project their own thoughts and emotions onto that whole onto that whole scene, and begging the question of, well, what would I do in that situation? And I think what Alexander has done so well with his performance in this film is that he gives you enough to make you think about how you would feel in that situation whilst you're seeing how he feels in that situation. And I think that those two things might not be super obvious for a lot of different performances in a lot of different films, but I think that seeing Alexander do something like that with this kind of storytelling, I think I think hats off to him as well.
Well,
I would like to thank
I
him.
mean, we're all, the audience is in complete fear because it shows how cruel war is, and that even the soldiers had no problem killing an unarmed civilian. And I mean, they didn't even value, I mean, of course, their demeanor in this scene, they did not value human life. And, but Alexander, wow. I mean, every scene with him was incredible to watch. I went back playing certain scenes so I could watch them over again because they're just so spectacular. And I also noticed too, because with this film, the cinematography, the camera work is just brilliant. The handheld work, it brought that sense of urgency, nervousness, and fear, the seriousness of the whole story to life. And then I noticed, and I know this is always done in planning, but I noticed that the colorization of the film, the warm saturated color underground, and then with a more cool tone of color for all of the outside shots. So I love that separation.
Oh, thank you for your kind words. I mean, working with Sunshine, our DOP, she's originally from Taiwan and studied together at the NFTS together with Hayden and myself. And working with her was an absolute honor. And again, it was very, very helpful that we had a lot of time to have these meetings to discuss the visual concept, to think very precisely about what would work for this film, what wouldn't work. Sunshine, as many of the other crew members, was also involved in a post-production process, was involved in a color grading. It was sort of a from start to finish process with her, which obviously for a director is an amazing way to work. And I'm extremely grateful for her enormous creative contributions to this project, and for the many ideas that she had, and for the spirit that she brought to the project. Collaborating with the DOP is very important also when it comes to directing the actors, because obviously they are physically so close to each other, and that needs to be a relationship that just works. And with Sunshine, it's extremely easy to establish that kind of amazing relationship. So I'm very grateful for that. And I also want to say I'm grateful for Shivani as well, our production designer. She was working very closely together with Sunshine, Hader, and myself, and some other crew members in order to also have a huge impact on the overall visual concept, on the cinematography, and on everything that you can see on screen. So her contribution there was also very important. And again, just so happy that we had the time together before the shoot to really sit down and discuss and prepare. I think that was really, really invaluable.
Yeah, I even love I love the lighting within the bunker because I love the use of shadow. And when I was first watching the film, I kind of paused it because, as you shoot in low light, the camera can bring forth a bit of noise, but then when it does that, I'm looking thinking, okay, is this digital or is this film? And of course, when you get to the outside shots, then you pretty much know that it's digital. But I loved the contrast because, on the outside shots being on a more cool tone, that's war. War is not full of color. It is, you know, it's a
Yeah.
dark time. It can become very lifeless because war brings forth death and destruction. And
Yeah.
and that's how I viewed this when I saw the separations between the interior shots and the outdoor environment shots. So again, that was all done to perfection. And Hader, I want to ask you this one because this is one of my top 3 films that I've seen this past season that I just absolutely love. How were you able to put together such a large cast for a short film?
That's a really good question. I think we for the majority of the film, it is primarily just Alexander's character as we follow him around. Um, we actually shot the interior sequences over a period of maybe 2 or 3 days, and for the most part, where you see the other actors in the sequences, we did that in a day. So we managed to only make it work within those parameters to kind of get as much as we can with for as little as we can, essentially. Because for the most part, within the bunker, the main sequences are either between him and his dad or him and the Ukrainian soldier. But thanks to our editor Carmelo, who made it work with the kind of quick pacing and obviously Franz's decisions and how he wanted to put the film together with the post team, it kind of seems that there's more people around more often. Um, and it's the same with the soldiers as well on the in the ridge line and that come down. Um, the fast-paced cutting, the fast-paced kind of camera movement. Um, if really and truly, you only really ever see maybe 2 or 3 of the soldiers at any one time. So it's just a bit of Hollywood movie making magic that we've managed to make it work with as little as possible with the actors.
I love I absolutely love that because I hear so many stories that, there's little miracles within the film that they can't believe they got it done. It comes out fantastic, and this film did that. But please tell me about the sound mixing because from the explosions to the fighter jets flying overhead, they were all so very realistic. I mean, just that alone added depth to the story. I mean, there's that one scene in which Ivan is running, and then he's going through that section where the two you can see the two metal bars overhead, and he's going under them, and then that's when you can hear these fighter jets flying over. I paused it and replayed it again because I was so amazed on how truly realistic the sound mixing was for this film. I mean, it's like you hired a bunch of fighter jets to fly overhead.
Well, I mean, the sound mixing, or the sound design and sound mixing was largely done by Brian, our amazing sound designer and mixer, and it was my second collaboration with her. We had an existing amazing professional relationship, and Bryony very much had the same vision then, like all we had for this project. It had to be authentic. It had to be as realistic as possible, and that was very, very difficult to achieve. I mean, the Soviet style Russian fighter jets have a completely different engine than military jets in NATO, so they sound different. The weapons are quite different from Western weapons, so they also sound different. It was really helpful that Bryony was on board way before the filming of the project. So again, she was part of these discussions. She was able to have enough time to come up with her own ideas and to point out what's really important for her. She also visited us on set, which was really, really helpful, and recorded quite a few things there herself, in addition to the amazing work that India, our location sound mixer, did. And yeah, when it comes to the Russian fighter jets and everything, obviously that had to be authentic. So there was a lot of work to get that done. Was a very intense process, I think, which was also very much defined by the hard work that our composer Marcin has invested into this project, which we're also extremely grateful for. And again, I think Bryony was trying to make the same film just like we did, and that helped us a lot in that whole process.
Yeah, and see, here's the thing. A lot of people may not notice, but when you hear a fighter jet fly over, it's not just hearing the fighter jet. You also have to hear the way the echo trails the jet. And I was listening thinking, this is so real that a lot of audience members would probably absolutely think that you had two fighter jets fly over, and just for the sound purposes, because like I said, it's not just the sound of the engines. There's an echo situation that you want to hear because it has to trail as it flies over, and then you hear that distance, and you pick that up in this film. And I was so in awe of the sound mixing of this film that they should just give you an award just for that because it's so good. you know
Oh,
um,
thank you. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
thank you. I think
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I was
No,
just going to
no.
say, I think what's what will be really good to mention as well is that part of that sound design was a creative choice um, based on the feedback that we had from the real Ivan, the true story, is that the sense of this impeding fear. You don't know when you're hearing these jets, whilst they do sound quite different. When you're a civilian on the ground, you have no idea if they're on your side or if they're
Yeah.
not. You know, you could be walking through this environment and that you don't know if that that could be the last step that you take based on the distance from the sound of this fighter jet or whose fighter jet it is and how it is. And I think part of the creative decisions that we made for the sound design was to try and encapsulate that as much as we can within the film itself.
Yeah, even there was a very quick line of dialogue, and it really showed the essence of war, where when they had already got Ivan, and they put his hands behind his back, and he's sitting there, and then one of the soldiers says, "Are there any landmines?" And I thought, that is absolute attention to detail. And because a lot of people don't think of those things. And this is war. War is not just fighter jets when it's modern day. There's also a ground war going on. There's booby traps that are set. And all of this was brought together in one of the most brilliant films that I've had the pleasure and honor to watch. But I must ask, did Ivan ever get to see the finished film?
Yeah. So, as mentioned before, Ivan was very, very closely involved in the whole production of the film, and I hope it goes without saying that it was a very dark day and unbelievably sad for our entire team when he was killed in combat. He saw a lot of different versions during the post production of the film. He was closely involved, as Hader mentioned. He was very helpful actually in providing a lot of feedback when it comes to music, sound design, editing choices, also dialogue bits, and all of these sort of fine details that I think really are incredibly important. And he did see a version that was very, 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 very close to the finished film. And I also do want to say, obviously, this is a heavy spoiler now, but I do want to say that, let's say, the design of the end titles um, and everything that's sort of being said about him was very much a result of a very honest uh, correspondence that Ivan and I had. Obviously, I would say he was a very, very close friend of mine, and he was very honest, very direct, and had a very dark sense of humor. But that meant that we were able to have these discussions and that we were able to speak about the unthinkable, really, just based on the numbers. Based on the numbers of how many of his colleagues in the Ukrainian army have died so far until this point. It was just very clear that we need to have this conversation at some point. And I'm glad that he was able to be involved in that part of filmmaking as well.
What did he think of the film?
I mean, obviously, I think he very much liked it, and he was very, very honored. I don't want to speak for him, obviously, but I think it's definitely true to say that he was honored that we sort of made this film and that he had the opportunity to participate. He actually quite often said that he really enjoyed this whole filmmaking process, and he quite often said to us that he has this idea or this goal to actually become a filmmaker after the war's over. He did send a few videos to us where he tested out his editing skills and his sort of filmmaking skills, and it was really, really amazing to receive all of that. But I also do want to say that, and I think it aligns with some of the feedback that we have received so far, specifically from the Ukrainian community. We are very glad that they like the film, but it's also for them it's nothing very new. Like this is just the reality on the ground, and a lot of these stories happen every day. Most of the stories never make it to the spotlight, and most of the stories are never discussed in any sort of public forum. Um, so I think Ivan is glad that this story was told, and it didn't even really matter that it was his particular story. It was just important that a story that happened there was being told in that way. And obviously, I also want to say, I'm sure he would have been extremely, extremely honored to see how well the film is received and to see the amazing festival journey that the film had, and to learn about the BAFTA nomination, obviously, but also just the sort of overall response from the audience so far. I think that I'm sure would have pleased him very much.
Yeah, I think this film truly brings honor to all of the civilians and soldiers in the Ukraine. And like you said, Ivan was it's his story, but the story's even bigger than him. And I
Yeah.
think the people of Ukraine can understand that this film is true to life, and it shows the rest of the world what war is truly all about, and it's cruel. Uh, but your film premiered last October, and now you're nominated for a BAFTA. And I must ask, are you still able to be qualified for an Oscar for 2026? Because this film is Oscar, and of course, it's BAFTA level performance.
We are looking at pushing for a Oscar qualification. We have submitted to quite a few film festivals that carry that qualification status. So fingers crossed we'll be on your side of the pond, hopefully next year.
Well, I can't wait for that. So I know that this film has had the most incredible film festival journey. What has been the overall audience's reaction to it?
Yeah, so it's generally this, but yeah, it's been incredible to be able to see it with a live audience at the film festivals that we've been to so far. It's incredible to see the different demographics of people that come to watch the film, uh, and the general feedback that we have um, seems to have quite an impact on people, just in such a way where they spend maybe 2 minutes speaking about the film and then 10 minutes about the current climate of these conflicts. And I think that really sits well with our intention of the film, is that we really wanted to bring the conversation to these types of conflicts, and not just specifically with the conflict within the film about the Ukraine-Russian conflict, but just conflicts in general and war, just to kind of get people to start talking about what that really looks and feels like beyond just what the media reports. So I think it's been a wonderful experience to be able to have a live audience respond to the film. And we're very humbled by the opportunity that BAFTA presents itself with taking the film further.
Well, I will say this. Have you written your acceptance speeches yet?
Well, let's stay.
We do
I
need to
think
have that
you know
conversation, though.
exactly. I'm from the south of Germany, and we have this word called bescheiden, which means down to earth. So let's see.
Well, I think it would be okay when if they announce your name that you just give your speech, heartfelt and off the cuff. Sometimes I think those will be the best speeches that we all get to watch and listen to. But ladies and gentlemen, I will say this: rock, paper, scissors. This is based on a true story from the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia. The film explores the themes of human resilience, courage, and sacrifice in the face of the cruel randomness of war. The story follows the courageous journey of Ivan, a 17-year-old Ukrainian boy, and his father who find themselves trapped in a makeshift bunker as war rages on around them. Now, Ivan and his father, operating again a makeshift hospital at the front line of war, are tested when a platoon of Russian soldiers approach their hidden bunker, forcing them to make a very difficult decision to protect their patients and their own lives. This film is one of the best I have seen, and not only is it nominated for a BAFTA Award, it could well end up going for the Oscar in 2026. Now, the cinematography of Rock, Paper, Scissors is cinematic. It's dramatic and brings the audience into the chaos of war. You see it, you feel it, and you can't escape it. You end up in the very shoes of Ivan, and you feel his apprehension, you feel and see his courage and bravery, and it's rising up from his very timid beginning. Now, the sound mixing of this film is the best I have literally heard in the last year, and I would give it an award just for that accomplishment. Now, actor Alexander Rudaninsky brings an Oscar and BAFTA level performance, and well, it's a true joy to watch, even in the midst of war. The acting is absolutely superb. So when you get a chance to see Rock, Paper, Scissors, and you are a lover of film, you'll love this film and it will inspire you to become a better filmmaker. So I want to thank you, friends and a hater, for sharing your BAFTA nominated short film with me today.
Thank you very much for having us. It's been a wonderful, wonderful interview. Thank you.
You're
Thanks
very
for
welcome.
your time. Yeah,
And
great interview.
you're very, very welcome. And to both of you and your whole team of putting this incredible film together, good luck to the BAFTAs this weekend, and I'm probably going to get up early just so I can see whose name is going to be announced in the British short film category. And I have heard rumors and a lot of great press about rock, paper, scissors, so we'll see what happens. And as for me, ladies and gentlemen, you're either going to see me at the movies or from the red carpet.